Emily Henry is so good. I will read anything she writes, I swear. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I know that it has been the hottest of minutes. It's been about 3 weeks, I think, since I posted, which is the longest that I've ever gone without posting on this channel, which is crazy. But I just needed to take a minute and take a step back and gather myself. But I am back now, and I am going to be reviewing Emily Henry's second novel, People We Meet on Vacation. Kiara, Sarah, and I were actually on vacation when this book came out, and you best believe we stopped into a bookstore and bought it immediately because we are huge Emily Henry fans. If you're not familiar with Emily Henry's work, her debut novel Beach Read is a New York Times best-selling novel and one of my all-time favorite romance books of all time. She is an incredible writer. I love her work, and I said after I finished Beach Read, I was like, I will buy anything this woman writes, and so far I have, and I haven't been disappointed yet. I am going to go ahead and give a spoiler-free review actually at the beginning of this video, and then if you would like to stick around and hear some of my more in-depth thoughts as well as some of my answers for her discussion questions. You guys know I love when authors include discussion questions because they always start such fun conversations. Then you can stick around for all of that. I actually did a review of Beach Read on this channel, so that will be linked in the description if you would like to go and check that out, but it is a spoiler review. I do talk a lot about different plot lines and characters and everything, and so I do recommend reading the book first and then coming back to join the discussion. To start off, here is my spoiler-free thoughts on People We Meet on Vacation. First off, Emily Henry is an absolute genius when it comes to creating characters that you low-key hate for almost the entire book, and then you just suddenly realize that you're in love with them. I don't know how she does it. It is magic, but she is just so good at that. It's a scary line to kind of teeter on as an author. I'm like, oh my god, one misstep and your readers will either hate the character entirely with no turning back, or they love them a little too soon and there's not any of that payoff and the character doesn't have as much depth. So I think she does an incredible job of creating these really dynamic characters that are just so real. In my Beach Read review, I talked about how much I related to her main character, and I still feel like even with this, I can pull bits and pieces of these characters and relate them to my life or people that I know, and that's so fun. It makes the book so fun and so enjoyable and almost more intense because, you know, you feel so invested right off the bat. The concept is absolutely adorable. These two friends who go on a summer trip together every single year, and you find that something ended up kind of breaking up their friendship and they don't speak for quite some time. Then out of the blue, one of the main characters, Poppy, reaches out to her estranged friend Alex, and they decide to give their summer trip another go for the first time in 2 years. And the whole time, this book is almost like a mystery, which I love that Emily Henry does this. There was hints of this in Beach Read as well, but it's almost this mystery of you're reading and you just want to get to the next chapter to find out what drove their friendship apart. Why? Because you're getting these flashbacks that are so incredible, and all these trips that these two would go on together, and you can see the love and the happiness in those moments, and then you know present day that it's not like that anymore, so you just want to figure out what went wrong, and all the while you're reading them working through their problems. So it's very fascinating the way that she structured this story, but I think it worked so well. It worked exactly how it had to, and I love that. Another thing that I adored about this book is the dialogue between Alex and Poppy. Their witty banter, their back and forth, the jokes that, it feels like inside jokes to me. It's inside jokes between the two characters, but I feel included in that, and she does it so seamlessly and so authentically that I never once felt like, this isn't believable. I was in it from page one. Just the dialogue that they share with each other was really, really, really well done, and like what I aspire to be. Emily Henry must be like the funniest person on this planet, truly, to come up with some of the stuff that she came up with. I think it's also important to note that this is a friends to lovers book, and I am not normally a huge friends to lovers fan. I don't love the trope necessarily. I'm more of an enemies to lovers fan. However, I will say that this book damn near converted me, because there's something about the history, and not only that, but as the reader, you get to read the history and through the years, and you see their friendship evolve and develop and grow and turn into this just unyielding love for one another, and I loved it. I think it worked so well. I don't know any other way to explain it. It worked so incredibly well, and it made me actually maybe want to pick up some more friends to lovers books, because truly I really enjoyed that aspect of the story, and I think it worked. And somehow, you know, these two characters seemingly have absolutely nothing in common, but it's the history and the friendship and the witty banter and the conversations and who they are with one another that really just brings them together, and I loved reading every single second of that. So good. I think that's all I can really say for my spoiler-free review. I know that there's probably other reviews out there that are a lot better at being spoiler-free and giving you a good sense of what the book is about and how much they enjoyed it, but all I can say is that I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I give it 5 Katelin's book scale review stars. Whatever we decided that scale was. All right, for those of you that like to spoil things for yourselves, or if you've already read it, then keep watching, because I am going to discuss in depth more of these characters and the plot lines and everything that I truly loved, and I'm going to answer some discussion questions. So first things first, the concept of this book and the idea of traveling and vacation and who you are on vacation as kind of this escapist idea is really fascinating, because I have this thought of like, well, when I go on vacation, I feel like you can be anyone you want to be. I'm also one of those that likes to pretend that I have a British accent when I go on vacation just to, you know, screw with people. I'm realizing how annoying that is after I say it out loud. But I love to do that. I love to go and I see vacations and getting away as this chance to like play a different part. But I think Poppy sees it as this way to just be truly authentically herself. And obviously, you know, having been bullied in her past and feeling really lonely and not loving her experiences growing up in her hometown, she sees this as a chance to meet people that only know her as who she's presenting right then and there, which I love. I love that. I think that's a fascinating concept that Emily has explored in this. I also never thought that I would want to be a travel writer until reading this, which I know, you know, towards the end of the book, she is over her job and she realizes she is burnt out and she doesn't love what she's doing anymore. But I'm sitting back thinking, oh my gosh, all expense paid trips to Europe and the best food, and you get champagne when you arrive in the lobby. Like, oh my god, dream come true. So now I'm considering being a travel writer for my 115th career decision in the last year. I will say that when I first discovered how the book was structured, I was a little hesitant. I was a little scared because I don't love books that jump back in time and then to present day and then back and present, and it's alternating chapters. I'm not the biggest fan of that structure, purely because sometimes I feel that you're a lot more invested in one timeline. So you're either invested in the timeline before or you're invested in the timeline that's happening present day. I did not feel that with this book. With this book, I was equally as invested in every single chapter, every timeline, everything, every page, every moment. I was hooked. And I think just the way that it was structured couldn't have been done any other way, because she didn't just reveal Poppy and Alex's history right away. You're discovering more and you're learning more, and then back when you hit present day, she'll call upon elements that you've just read about in the previous chapter, even though it happened 8 years ago or whatever in the story's timeline. So I think the structure was brilliantly done, and not to mention too, but it makes you love the characters more. There's something about reading, and I love a good flashback, I do. In terms of exposition, I think there's probably a million better ways to go about it than a flashback, but I love a flashback because I don't want to just be told what happened. I want to live through it. I want to be there with the character. I want to be right alongside them. And in this book, you are. The concept of travel, again, is you know, so awesome, and I really, really enjoyed that aspect of it too. And I think it's so fun because this book really does kind of transport you to all these different places that Poppy and Alex go and visit. And that was also just kind of a fun little side effect of the book. So you're so invested in their story, but it's like, well, one minute you're in New Orleans and the next minute you're in Tuscany and all this stuff is happening, and you feel too like you're growing up with the characters because you meet them freshman year of college, and then, you know, by the time 10 years later, what is that? You're almost 30? Over 30? Almost 30. No, they are 30. They're 30. So you meet them so young, and then you get to kind of grow up with them and see how they change and evolve, or in some cases they don't change and they don't evolve and they stay a little stagnant, which is how I felt about Alex. I would love to talk about Alex because I feel like he was really, like, he's the character that teetered on me not liking him like the entire time. I was like, do I really like this guy, or is he just not? I don't know. His character was a little hit or miss for me. Because I think he is, you know, while we know that he's not boring, he does, or, you know, maybe he is boring, and maybe that's, I'm like working through this as I'm speaking. I'm sure you guys are loving this. You know, maybe he is boring and Poppy just loves him exactly how he is, but he still does all the things. He still goes on the trips, and he agrees, and he's such a yes man, and he'll do whatever Poppy wants to do. And I do love that about him, where he may be quieter, maybe a little bit more standoffish, maybe a little bit more serious, but he's always going to go along with what Poppy wants, and I did love that aspect of their relationship. The Palm Springs timeline was painful as it was supposed to be. It was just so painful because you're watching them pick up the pieces, and you really don't know what happens between them until the end of the book when you realize that they kiss, which I was almost expecting it to be something more. I was expecting there to be a bigger blowout, which I'm just now realizing is maybe it had just been building for so long. Their kind of break in friendship had just been like one thing after another slowly through the years, and then all it really took was one thing, one miscommunication that ended it all. And when you read about, you know, their kiss that they have that sparks this whole break in their friendship, you're thinking, well, I was thinking, that's not that bad. Like, you know, 10 years of friendship seems silly to throw away over one little mistake, but that just goes to show that any small little miscommunication has the ability to do just that. And I think it was an interesting wait. It was interesting reading the whole book, just waiting to find out what happened, waiting to get to the flashback where you find out what happened in Croatia, and then you find out, and I was like, oh, that's it, you know? But I get it, and I get that there was bigger things going on between them at the time than just simply that small little thing. Yeah, so the Palm Springs timeline was painful because Poppy is just being such a try-hard throughout all of that, and, you know, of course, Alex is kind of just being Alex, and he's being dark and mysterious and, you know, not really open, and you want them so badly to fall into their old witty banter and jokes and stuff, and anytime it happens you're like teased with it, you know, because you think, okay, this is the part where they're just gonna like make up and everything's gonna be fine, but they don't right away, and it takes a few days, and you know, finally you get that satisfying end where they leave Palm Springs and everything is good, except it's not good, and you realize in the end that both of them needed to work through a lot of their own personal goings on before coming back together again, which, you know, love that. Basically, moral of the story is that anything can be solved with therapy. So we love to see that. We love to see that represented in books and normalized and talked about and everything, and I think it was great. The ending, the epilogue, was definitely not what I thought it was going to be. For some reason, I guess I was just so stuck on Beach Read, where they get engaged at the end of the book. Sorry, spoiler for Beach Read if you haven't read that, which, like, do that immediately. So I was expecting something similar, but then, you know, they're still working on it. Let's do a couple discussion questions, shall we? Ooh, this one's good. Have you ever met a goal and found that your reaction wasn't quite what you expected? This calls upon the plot line in the story where Poppy basically gets everything she ever thought she wanted. She has this dream career, dream boss, she lives in New York, she's got this apartment, like everything is going good for her and she's achieved all her goals, and then there's this moment that she has of like, well, what now? I'm sad, I'm depressed, and it's because when you spend so long working towards something and then you finally get it, you kind of sit back like, oh my God, what do I do now? And I have absolutely felt that. I feel like, you know, I left college with my dream job, which was working on Broadway, doing fundraising development, and which I did all throughout college, and I thought, oh my God, this is perfect. I can't believe that this is all working out. Dream job right out of college. How many people get to say that they achieved that? I was living in New York City. Everything was going great. And then I did have a few moments when I was in New York working where I was like, is this what I want? Like, is this everything? Like, have I done it? Is this what I have in life to look forward to? And it is this moment that like stalled me, and I was like, wait, I need something more here. And Poppy, you know, her friend Rachel asks her, when was the last time that you were happy? And she thinks back and she has to think about it, and she's like, well, the last time that I was with Alex. And so I think, you know, I've definitely had those moments of asking myself, God, when was the last time that I was happy? But yeah, that also kind of goes along with the question of Poppy is going through professional burnout. Have you ever experienced that kind of fatigue, and how did you get through it? In terms of writing, I mean, you guys all practically watched my cute little burnout with writing this past April with Nano, where I questioned everything. I questioned if I was good enough. I questioned if it's really what I wanted out of life. Like, I just went through it, and you guys got to all see that, which was very fun. But I think the best way to handle it, or the way that I'm currently handling it, is just taking a step back, realigning your priorities, and I'm really big about not setting goals necessarily. I'm trying to be better about that, because goals actually can be really tough when you know, work towards something for so long and you finally achieve it, and then you have to sit back and completely come up with these new goals. And it's exactly what Poppy experienced, and it's dangerous. So I'm trying to realign and reframe some of my goals into just like things that I'd like to accomplish. And it's a lot less pressure, and that's how I'm working through it. You can see I'm still clearly working through it. Why do you think it takes Poppy and Alex so long to admit their feelings to each other? Well, I think that this is a classic friends to lovers dilemma, is that when you're such good friends with someone, it's always a greater risk to admit your feelings and put yourself out there, because if it's not received, not only are you losing the possibility of being something more, but you're also losing a friendship, which is horrendous and awful and terrible, and that's, I think, why sometimes the stakes are a lot higher in Friends to Lovers, and I think that's why it took them so long. I think too, neither of them really knew what they wanted out of life, which who really knows, you know, especially in their 20s, which they are throughout this entire book. So I don't know, I think there's a few factors, but yeah, risking the friendship, losing the friendship, also just the constant miscommunications and constant feeling like, you know, Poppy talks about Sarah, who is Alex's ex, nonstop. And it's like, well, she's putting that energy out there, you know? And so, the last question, the last discussion question, Emily Henry, is do you think Poppy and Alex are going to make it? And I actually have a hot take for this one. I think a good chance, no. Because the fact of the matter is that these two people would spend a week to 2 weeks with each other once a year, if that, for 10 years, and then spend the rest of the year not talking as often or not seeing each other, not spending time together. And I think that might pose to be a problem, because everything is different and magical when you're on vacation, and it's very bachelor-y, where it's like, you know, you're off doing these incredible dates and you're in Europe and you're like having all these incredible experiences with no real life responsibilities. But the second that the show ends, you oftentimes find them breaking up and everything, because that's real life and that's reality. And that's not to say that they're not gonna make it. I don't know, maybe not. I hope so, because Poppy and Alex are their end game, but who's to say? Real life could get in the way. Oh, you guys, wow, these were a lot of thoughts. This is gonna be really fun to cut down. Overall, if you have not read anything by Emily Henry, then you need to pick up Beach Read, you need to pick up People We Meet on Vacation and read them both, because you will not be disappointed. They are solid, solid romance books, and she is easily now one of my favorite authors. And that's it. Oh, also, I got a book tattoo. I got a little book tattoo on my trip with Kiara and Sarah, so that's fun. Now it's set in stone. I have to become a writer at this point. If you guys enjoyed today's video, then go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and if you're not already, really subscribe, join the brigade. We have fun here. So if you're interested, then stick around, turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of the videos, and yeah, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day. Now go read something.